Why do Windows, Linux, and macOS have unique boot sequences? Imagine turning on your computer and watching a series of steps unfold before you see your desktop. Each operating system has its own way of starting up, but why is that? Well, it all comes down to how each system is built and what it needs to do to get ready for use. When you press the power button, your computer begins a process called the boot sequence. This process wakes up the hardware and loads the operating system so you can start working or playing. But each operating system has a different way of doing this because they are designed with different goals and hardware support in mind. Windows starts with the firmware, which can be BIOS or UEFI. It performs basic hardware checks and then loads the Windows Boot Manager. This program reads configuration files to decide which version of Windows or other operating systems to load. It then loads the Windows kernel, which is the core part of the system, along with essential drivers that help the hardware communicate with the software. Windows focuses on compatibility, so it supports a wide range of hardware and keeps a structured startup process to make sure everything runs smoothly. Linux, on the other hand, begins with the firmware too, but then it loads a bootloader like GRUB. This bootloader is very flexible and allows users to choose from multiple operating systems or kernel versions. After selecting, it loads the Linux kernel and an initial RAM disk, which contains drivers needed to access the hardware and mount the root file system. Once the kernel is running, it hands over control to an init system like systemd or sysvinit. Linux's boot process is very customizable, which makes it popular for servers, embedded devices, and users who like to tweak things. macOS has a different approach because it is designed specifically for Apple hardware. It starts with the FI firmware, which performs hardware checks and security verifications. Then it loads the macOS bootloader, which verifies the system's integrity before loading the XNU kernel. The kernel works with kernel extensions to support hardware and system functions. macOS uses a system called Launch to start services and user sessions. It also offers a special feature called the Startup Manager, which you can access by holding the Option key during startup. This allows users to select different boot devices easily. The differences in these boot sequences reflected what each operating system aims to do. Windows prioritizes broad hardware support and a familiar graphical startup. Linux emphasizes flexibility and customization, fitting many different environments. macOS focuses on security, seamless hardware integration, and simplicity for the user. Understanding these unique startup processes helps us see how each system prepares itself for your daily tasks, making sure everything runs smoothly from the moment you press the power button.